What did we just watch? Copa Ora began with dreams. Chris Richards' goal inside the 4th minute. Earliest goal the US has scored against Mexico in over 30 years. Oh, but the Mexico came at us. They created as many chances as there are bucket hats at an Oasis gig. And the United States did fight. They fought as hard as they could, our G League team, but then they buckled. Our big players disappeared. Mexico's 2 big Premier League stars delivered the goals. Raul Jimenez, an exclamation point finish, and then Edson Alvarez dropped the hammer. The score 2-1 to Mexico does not really honestly reflect just how medieval they got on our arses. Bayed on by a Houston crowd that was so pro-Mexican, 90% by all accounts. So honestly, it felt like the Azteca had been lifted up and dropped north of the border. A game, we will break down our last competitive game before World Cup 2026. We'll break it down on a live Gold Cup final episode of The Juice with the gent himself, our nation's record male goal scorer, a gent who played Mexico 18 times in his career. We know where he's from, dog. It's Mr. Clint Dempsey.
What's up, Raj? How's it going?
Clint.
We scored too early. We scored too early, bro.
You texted me that, and I thought, oh my god,
Yeah.
we got Clint on the we scored too early bandwagon now, man. I don't know what to say to you other than all tournament long we've been saying, how good is this US team? How good is it? We decided we were almost like Jake Paul, like it's impossible to tell. Tonight, did we see Jake Paul fight a real boxer for the first time? And it was not so pretty.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. There's just so many times that you can win ugly in a row. But at the end of the day, I'm going to be positive and say they got us believing again. They showed fight. Chris Richards was the star of the tournament.
Immense.
Yeah, just the star of the tournament. Both sides of the ball. There's a few other bright spots that we'll take away from it. Tillman, Luna a little bit. But, yeah.
Sean McLean had that good 9 seconds against Turkey. We'll never forget those first 9 seconds. But we will break it all down, my lord. We'll try and be optimistic. We'll try and draw strength. We'll ask ourselves, what does this even mean with these players in this tournament? But before we begin tonight, a weekend that's been darkened by the passing of Diego Jota, whom we mourned together on the show with Rory Smith last Thursday. We'll talk about him some more tomorrow, Rory, when we film in person in New York City. But I do want to take a second to mourn the passing of another football figure, one who's a legend in the American game, remarkable Englishman, Gordon Jago, a gent who transformed the Dallas Cup into the premier showcase for young talent in the United States. Honestly, one of the finest showcases in the world. Gordon was a remarkable man. Passed away this weekend. Former professional player, became manager of Queen's Park Rangers, coaching pioneer in the US, led the Tampa Bay Rowdies, the Dallas Sidekicks. But then he dedicated his will to the Dallas Cup. And when Clint and I were in Dallas 2 weeks ago, Gordon graced us, honoured us with his presence at our live show. He came to be with Clint, came backstage. It was really an honour for both of us to hear this remarkable American stories. All I'll say is, gent love Clint. Clint, I'm so sorry for your loss.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm sorry for the family of Gordon, but I'm grateful for what he did for the game in the States, but especially in the state of Texas. You talked about the Dallas Cup and his kids growing up. That was our World Cup, an opportunity to play against kids from other countries, whether it was Brazil, Mexico, Italy, England. I mean, it had that feel of, I guess, a FIFA Club World Cup before a FIFA Club World Cup in a sense. So I just remember looking to those times every year, and you had to earn it. If you wanted to be in the Dallas Cup, you had to be the best in Classic League to get the opportunity to play against the best from around the world and around the rest of the country that you lived in. So shout out to Gordon for everything he did for the game, and it's always sad when you lose a legend, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I taped a show with Wayne Rooney where he talked with joy about what it meant to him to play as a kid in the Dallas Cup and then take his own kid to play in the Dallas Cup. That's the kind of Massive global event it was. I said during our live show that we have a rich and remarkable history of football in this nation, and that Gordon Jago honestly embodied it. May his memory be a blessing for all those who met him. But to the game. And America, remember, we're not here alone. This is a Gold Cup Do It Live, made possible by our great friends at Allstate, which means you, dear GFOPs, are a massive part of the show. Come and ask us questions about the game. Pochettino, the implications of this for the World Cup. Or just make this the Clint Dempsey fishing hour, which would be so bloody nice. Scan the QR code in the top left of your screen. We're going to get to your questions, your feelings, what you want to ask Clint. Let's talk about what we just experienced tonight and really try and pick it apart together. I'm going to try and get to your questions as soon as we can, so start lining up now. You know how it works. Get into a Zoom with our producer, Tony, a beautiful human being. He'll get you set up to ask your question. Come be with us. Get the comments in the chat right now. Maybe not the most uplifting space in this moment, but it's a safe space, so come and be with us. Dave Gilmore says, hope missing 18 players are suffering from a serious case of remorse. That's a fascinating question in itself. Nathan Lamstron says Luna should never have cut his hair. He lost his blonde warlock energy. Jared Kellery, however, says, I was excited to be excited again during the World Cup. Yes, this game was ugly, but I was cheering as compared. Oh, that doesn't end so well as compared to our listless A team. We'll get to the game in a second. I want to say what a week we got at the Men in Blazers World Headquarters. Rory Smith over in the US. This Tuesday and Wednesday, we'll do a pair of live watch-alongs at the Michelob Ultra Pittside Club in Midtown Manhattan. New Yorkers, come watch Chelsea Fluminense and PSG Real Madrid with us. We'll take your questions right afterwards. I'm so excited to find out how you can be with us for free. Look in the links below, the pod or the YouTube, and the RSVP is there. Come and raise some pints with all of us. But to the game, Clint, we knew this was going to be tough going into this. These two teams have played 7 Gold Cup finals before this one. Mexico had won 5. You played in 2 of them. I think you won 2-1 in 2007, 2011. You're on the receiving end of a 4-2 beatdown. Give us a framing. What's it like playing Mexico? Does it feel different to you to other games when the whistle's blowing?
For sure. I mean, you can just see the stadium being completely packed, and you feeling like you're playing in another country. But there's just an energy about the game. Most of the time when you play them, it's for something special. Whether it's World Cup qualifying games or if you're meeting in Gold Cup, it's normally a final, and you know that a lot is on the line. So. It's what you want. You want to be in these games, be in these moments, and test yourself and see how everything is gonna go. So it's what it's all about, really. But yeah, you would like to see more American fans in the crowd, be more 50-50. But hey, lately it's not been the greatest in terms of attendance, what we've seen. But I think after today, after this tournament, I think more people start to show up because of the fight we're starting to see, and you're starting to believe again. I mean, we weren't with our best team, but there's things I still feel to be optimistic about. But like you said, we were outplayed today. You look at first half, we only had one shot going into the 45th minute before we almost had something at the end of the first half. It just wasn't enough. We didn't have enough in the attack in third, and it's almost like you always say, if you score too early, does it kind of mess you up for the rest of the game? That kind of looked like we never really created enough and dominated the game like we could.
Well, let's talk about the scoring too early. Let's start right there, because we all tune in to watch our boys. We wanted to see some fight. They definitely gave us some of that. I'd say also being a finalist was a lovely moment for some of these young kids. I don't think they'll forget it. Massive moment for Pochettino, to be honest, as we'll discuss. US unchanged as expected. Essentially, Poch at this point is like, I have no option. 3 straight games with the same starting lineup. The crowd, 70,000 plus. Reports had it 90% Mexico fans. Just incredible. I mean, that to me is one of the stories of this Gold Cup. Where have the American fans gone? 2014, when Clint was scoring in the World Cup. The American fans were the darlings of world football in many regards. Today, this was an intimidating crucible. But my God, the opening, the smoke, the noise, Mexico trying to impose themselves physically. But our very first attack against a team who hadn't conceded in 380 minutes took just 3 minutes, 32 seconds. Delirium. Sebastian Berhalter, perfectly flighted set piece. Yep. Chris Richards' header, though. Chris,
what a finish.
My God. I mean, it was like, I say this is the highest compliment I could think of. It was like Brian McBride-esque.
Yeah. I mean, he had to adjust his body because the ball was a little bit behind him, and the way in which he was still able to get power on it and then keep it low as well. I mean, it was a striker's finish, like what you talked about. And all you're thinking is figure out a way to manage the game, get through the first half, still be up. You get into the second half with Mexico having more fans, 90,000. I mean, 90% plus. There's going to be more pressure on them as you build into that second half. But we weren't able to see out that first half and keep the lead. And
Did we? So did we? I mean, by the way, Brian McBride once told me he was good at heading the ball because he was a heavy metal fan as a kid, and all the headbanging at Judas Priest concerts gave him his neck muscles. Have you headed one like that, Clint? Do you know it's gone in as soon as it leaves your head when you hit it that beautifully?
I mean, the worst headers is the one that they don't hit the net, so you don't know for sure, right? Like when it hit the post and went down, there's still a little bit of doubt whether or not it crossed the line or not. Obviously, you're always going to say you want the throw in or you want the goal, and if you're not doing that, you're never going to get the call. So, but yeah, that was a great finish, and not only was he able to help big in the attacking area during this tournament, but just what he did defensively. I mean, just for sure, he's a lock-in. He's a lock-in for this team going into a World Cup, in my opinion.
He's an immense footballer. Today,
sure.
I mean, watching him move around that back line, his positioning, his focus, he was immaculate. I mean, there's a leader in Chris Richards too, I believe, which is an X phase for his game. But my God, for me, the American player of the tournament. But in that moment, I'm not sure if it was a joke that you texted me, did we just score too early and you're winding me up? But we want to see how Mexico would respond. I mean, they had barely allowed a shot on goal. Tackles flying in everywhere. The Guatemalan referee let everything go. Bodies everywhere. 16-year-old Gilberto Mora, fearless, setting up play after play, targeting Max Austin down their right. I mean, I've got to say, I was impressed that the US did not back down in these exchanges. They were in the fight. 64% possession for Mexico. So many players forward. What I was seeing, I don't know what you were, but because Tim Ream is not mobile, our backline had to sit so deep, and then the midfield gets sucked backwards. And ultimately, we got deeper and you could feel it long before the goal, long before the ball, before the goal that this game was going to turn. Yeah,
I mean, even on the goal that they scored, I mean, it's still, they didn't truly calm down till Jimenez got that goal, but it just looked like a miscommunication between, I don't know if it was Freeman or Berhalter in terms of who they were going to take, but they ended up sorting it out. But Tyler didn't think that they had it sorted out, kind of left a man that was open. Yeah. He's able to get turned facing the goal with no pressure. And then like you talked about, was able to slip that ball. Maybe they were sitting a little bit deep, and then still Tim wasn't able to get there to get a block on the shot. And once they got that goal, you could see it was they calmed down, and you could see they were truly starting to boss the game after that.
Yeah, I mean, by the way, huge respect. That was an incredible finish, first time from Raul Jimenez. It was like all that practice against Tim Ream in Fulham training. He just knew exactly what to do there. And by the way, to score against the US and then honour Diogo Jota, teammate for 2 seasons at Wolves, it must have felt, well, first stunningly clinical and then stunningly human. It was even though it hurt, it was very beautiful. Noise, as you say, in Houston went up to 11. Poch had said it's good for us to play under pressure. It's what this team needs. We wanted to see if our boys, particularly our starlets, could perform in that crucible. Luna, Tillman. But the reality is, the backline kept coughing up possession over and over. So much hype for Diego Luna headed. So much hype. It was like he was about to be cast in the 5th remake of The Star Is Born. but he essentially had to play auxiliary left back for much of the first half. I mean, he was a total non-factor in this game, Clint.
No, for sure. It looked like he was playing deeper than what he wanted. He was having to, when we were winning the game, it's not as bad because it's like you can grind it out, but within you're in a situation where you need to create as well. It just makes it more difficult to get forward. It reminds me of my time playing at Fulham under Roy Hodgson when we would double up on their wingers, and it looked like a situation where maybe it was too much work that he was doing defensively that didn't give him any energy to create going forward. He didn't really notice him that much, and when he got the ball, maybe he was a little bit tired, a little bit heavy. What I'll say is Max does a great job getting forward, not so much defensively, which is his position. So I don't know if it's a situation where do you work more defensively on your game or do you become a winger, right? I think it's still trying to figure out that situation, but
American Trent Alexander-Arnold, Max, that's what you are, baby. By the way, Mora, the kid, ran the game in that first half. And I admired the US for having the fight to keep themselves in it. I think it was a hell of an achievement to get out of that first half 1-1. Again, Chris Richards immense. There was that bar fight in the Mexican box just before halftime, which was edge of the seat stuff. I got to say, Sebastian Berhalter, if you watch Greg Berhalter play, whenever he had, Sebastian got some of that in him. Real fighter, real scrapper, God bless. We got to half-time tied. Second half, US tried to push the back line higher and higher. Mexico started to play through us at will, so we went deep and just couldn't hold on to the thing. We were like a hockey team, icing the puck and every opportunity. Clint, the fact that our starting lineup played 3 games straight in a tournament, would they be feeling that? Would they be gassed? Is it just like too much with too few in that squad?
I mean, that's a tough one, right? Because everybody's going to be up for the final, but it has been a long season for the players that are playing in Europe, and then to deal with the heat that they've had to deal with during the Gold Cup this summer. But you would think that there would be a little bit more depth in the team, that there would be a change or two, right? That you wouldn't just be the same exact lineup. There would be someone pushing someone else possibly out if they weren't getting the job done. Because we talk about all the games that they played, and credit to them, they got to the final, but we won ugly a lot of those games. So it wasn't like we were pulling up trees, as some people say. So it's a tough one. It just, I don't know if it's Pochettino doesn't have enough depth in that team to really do what he wants, but we look, they got us believing again. They showed a lot of fight, but there was just not enough quality in the team, in my opinion.
America, remember, we missed tonight Anthony Robinson, Tim Weah, Pepe, Balogun, Serginho Dest, Pulisic, and then, the hammer, 77 minutes, a free kick. The US lived by 1 in the opening exchanges. We died by 1 at the last. Flick on by Johan Vasquez, and Edson Alvarez reacted with polish and relish. Alex Freeman kept him on side. Hello, darkness, my old friend. I mean, I was hoping for penalties, Clint. I got to be candid. I was hoping for Matt Freese too, electric boogaloo, but that goal was a hammer. Yeah,
I mean, it was one that it was a free kick that we didn't need to give up, right? It was Luna, I think, gave it away. It was a cheap free kick, in my opinion. That just being a little bit lazy in that situation, and then your line dropped like you talked about, which was you were seeing during the game. Maybe they dropped too much that allowed him to be on sides on the flick. But yeah, when you concede in the late 78th minute, I mean, it's a mountain to climb then, right? You're going against the crowd. You're going against a team that's got one hand on the trophy. And we had one or two chances, but there was some just bad giveaways, just across the field passes that led to counterattacks, stupid fouls that wasted more time against you. So it was frustrating to watch in those last 10 to 15 minutes, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I mean, it really was. It was decision-making in attack. It was shattered legs, shattered minds. The decision making was as bad as whose ever idea it was to let off smoke and fire in a dome stadium in the opening ceremony, and that was it. 10th Gold Cup for Mexico. Huge respect to them. You could see how much it meant to them. This was close to their first team for the World Cup. Our boys kept it close with fight on the scoreboard, but this was a beatdown on the field. Huge win for their manager, Javier Aguirre. This was his big moment, I think, before next summer. For Pochettino, I mean, the goal was to win the Gold Cup. He would have had leverage. He would have been able to... remember, Greg Berhalter beat Mexico in the final in 2021 with Sebastian Lletget and José Zardes in the team. For Poch, that trophy would have been nice, but optics-wise, he could have delivered that message, saying to the players who were not there, we won without you, fit into this. He can't do that anymore. Still needs a signature win. 16 games into his tenure, foreign press beginning to laugh at us a little bit. BBC had a piece this morning, is Pochettino delivering hope or panic to the US? I'm going to take the questions from our listeners because there's so many of them, but I do need to say, we've watched together. We've beaten number 100 Trinidad and Tobago. We've beaten 83 in the world, Haiti. 58 Saudi Arabia B team, 106 Guatemala. We needed penalties to get past number 54 Costa Rica. We're beating poor teams. We're struggling to score against mid-level ones. We're getting really beaten up by quite good European ones. That was the last competitive game we play between now and the World Cup. So, Clint, where are we right now? What does this mean? Does it mean anything with these players? Like, what do you think we take from this? How worried should we be? How dismissive of it? Doesn't matter anyway. Should we be?
I mean, it's been worrying as we had Copa America and the CONCACAF Nations League, and you see the attendance, and there's a reason why there's not a lot of people coming out to these games, and then the way in which we beat the teams during the Gold Cup. But the positives you take is the fight that they had. They found a way to win. You know what I'm saying? There's a few players that have merged that maybe can push for that starting 11 when we have all of our best players in. But look back on this tournament, I think it was a positive one for Luna, Malik Tillman, and Chris Richards, and it's great to see Tyler Adams fit again and being in this squad. So and Freeze, in terms of how well he performed in the shootout, it was good to see. But the other ones that I said before him are really the true players that push to break into this lineup as we move towards the World Cup.
I think I take Freeze to the World Cup. Just bring him on like the Dutch do. Just bring him on for the penalties. We got to find another keeper.
Was it Cruel that they bring on?
Yeah. Oh my God, exactly. Good memory, baby.
Yes, sir.
I mean, the Dutch, if you don't remember, in World Cup, was it 2014, would just insert Tim Krul for the penalty shootouts to do his mind games in his shithousery, and it worked. That's our man. He is essentially Harvard Tim Krul. Ethan Gomberg in the chat says beautifully, we got totally outplayed, but I'm still proud of this team and their overall tournament. Let's take the questions here. A reminder of how this works on YouTube Live. Scan the QR code, top left of your screen, or click in the pinned comment in the chat. You're going to a Zoom with Tony. Our producer will tell you all you need to know. Let's start with the mighty Sam. I think you're from Phoenix. Can you unmute, confirm that, and come on up, tell us where you are and what is your question for King Clint?
Yes, Raj. And if you remember, I'm the starter of the Diego Luna Colt fan club. And I brought myself down here to Tijuana, actually, to watch behind enemy lines, see how it works here on Avenida Revolucion. And
how was it?
It's been a great tournament. I watched it downtown. There was about 800 people. I wore neutral green to not die. Yeah. But it was wonderful.
By the way, you had the same ratio of American fans to Mexican fans in Tijuana as there were in the stadium, Sam.
Yeah, just about. I mean, honestly, I don't know why we don't just play these in New York. Can we go? I know we've done the Ice Bowl. That's a bit boring to me. But we could go further north for some home field advantage. But nonetheless, it's going to be the same if we play them in the World Cup. So we got to be ready for it.
What's your
my question was? It was totally addressed already by Clint. I was asking beyond Adams, Richards, Ream, really Diego getting himself probably secured as a sub for the World Cup. who can we really take from this tournament as someone that moved the needle. So I guess my question I've changed to, which of these guys did you see should make a move somewhere else to where they can develop a little bit more, that can maybe even, I know looking past World Cup seems foolish, but maybe down the line show themselves, who could make a move based on the improvement they've shown in this tournament, since I don't really see anyone else moving the needle in the roster.
Great question. Don't go anywhere, Sam. I'll let Clint answer, but I got a question for you, baby.
Yeah, I mean, you see Tillman moving to possibly Leverkusen. I don't know if that's finalized or not, but and then Luna, there's been talks of him possibly. Chris Richards doing really well at Crystal Palace. They won an FA Cup there. He continues to get better, so who knows with that situation as he continues to play the way in which he's playing. But what would you say, Raj, in terms of players that could be on the move possibly?
Adjiman's moving to Derby County, which is going to be fascinating for him to see. And again, I thought he actually.
Do you think that's the right move for him, Raj? I would ask you.
The Championship. I mean, you know English football better. He's a physical unit. He's going to have the crap kicked out of him. He's going to learn. I mean, he's going to.
His hold-up play for sure will improve.
Yeah, he's got to get better on the ball in every regard. It's fascinating watching him. It's like his first touch is okay, his second and third get often progressively worse as his brain clicks in. I believe in him. I mean, he's a fighter. He's been written off his whole career. I'd say that, there's the Matt Turner trajectory, but ultimately Matt Turner is in need of a second act of that. Tenacity and fight again. He needs to move in every regard. So many of our players. I mean, Gio Reyna right now has just played 12 minutes total for Dortmund in the Club World Cup. It's not just where are they playing, it's how long are they actually on the field for. I think that's the critical question for all our boys in the run-up to World Cup 2026. Julio Chavez says something beautiful in the chat. He's trying to worship Gilberto Moura to Everton. I'll bite your arm off for that. A couple of millions have gone on his transfer price after this performance. Sam, what did it mean in Tijuana tonight? You were there. I am fascinated. I was surprised. I mean, it's beautiful, honestly. The Mexican team's reaction to. I believe in the Gold Cup. I think there's a great tournament in the Gold Cup. I wish more people loved it. I'd like Gold Cup to start being played like the World Cup, partially in Canada, partially in America, partially in Mexico. I think that's what we need to make it go next level. But what was it like in Tijuana, the celebrations?
Yeah, Raj, the thing that's just palpable when you're out here is that it can be the build-up, the hum before the ball even gets close to the 18. You can see every missed chance. If you were in the bathroom, you'd think a goal was scored because of how much excitement's going on. And so it really was. Everyone's at the edge of the seat. Everyone knows every player. Everyone knows who's in, who's out. Even an hour leading up to the game, you would overhear conversations in the lobby of the hotel of where are you going to watch? What are you doing? And just, a thing I know will maybe one day come to the U.S., but just as someone that grew up playing soccer, very exciting.
I believe deeply in a Gold Cup full of self-love. I think this tournament really can be something. Can you work on your Diego Luna song as president of the Diego Luna fan club? Keep calling in until you've got one. But we're going to move on to Alex. Come on up, baby. Tell us where you are and what's your question for Clinton.
Hey, you guys, can you hear me?
We hear you loud and clear, Alex. Where are you, mate?
Hey, I'm from Tampa. I'm currently in Vegas for work.
Vegas for work?
Yeah. Worst reason to be here, but despite the outcome of the final, glad to be here with you guys. I appreciate you guys taking my call last go around. But similar question in a way. I know last time I was talking about grit and underdog mentality. I don't like harping on this topic of identity and culture, but I feel like it's a fascinating one when you don't have one. So I believe the right move would be an identity of just that grit and fight. But I wanted to ask you guys, Rog and Clint, which way you guys think it is the way to go? Because I feel like we try to copy other countries too much. You have Italy with their beautiful defense historically, not so much lately, but historically. You got Spain with your tiki-taka and your dribbling. What's ours? Because I feel like 2014 World Cup, it was a bunch of fighters. It was all fight. You didn't need to be the most technically gifted, but you fought till the end. I feel like we kind of need that back. I feel like that's our true identity that we haven't had, but I wanted to get your guys' opinions on that.
It's a great question. I mean, Clint, you were playing in 2014 when we were just, I mean, Jurgen Klinsmann in his opening press conference when he took over said, we want every team to reflect their nation. And he tried to imagine what an American style of football would be, but you were just a punctured in the mouth team. I mean, I'm fascinated. How do you answer it? Because it is a key question.
Well, I think we touched on it before just a little bit in other post games when we talked about you need a little mix of everything, right? You're starting to see us be more dangerous on set pieces, which was always kind of a staple of ours. We're a team that normally had a keeper that you'd bet the bank on. In terms of whether it was Tony Meola, Brad Friedel, Casey Keller, Tim Howard. I think you needed to have goal scorers, people that that could get you goals, right? If you were able to hold up shop and be difficult to break down defensively, still could catch teams on the counter, but then have the quality if you needed to break team down, that you could players that could produce a little bit of magic. But I just think you have to have a mix, right? Like any good soup, you got to have a lot of ingredients, right? So I think it's difficult to have just like your clear cut, your own style, but you have to be, I think, to play in World Cup, especially in conditions where it's hot, you have to have a style where you're good on the ball. You're good with both feet. You're good in possession, and you know how to kind of deal with that and manage your energy a little bit better. There's no way you can press and run during the summer in that way.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I mean, ultimately, the US teams at their best had the fight. There's no doubt the collective ferocity, but they also had an idea of how they're going to score goals. Even going back to 1994, when you think about that first goal against Colombia, what was it, in the 52nd minute? Eric Winalda holding the ball up. When you interview Eric about that goal, he said it was the most beautiful goal the US scored because they trained at that move so many times. Him holding it up, him turning, he knew Ernie Stewart. He knew exactly where Ernie Stewart was going to be running, and he delivered, and Ernie Stewart finished. That was their idea of how to score. And some of the frustration with Greg Berhalter teams was that you'd watch the games often against very limited opponents. You'd say, what was the idea? How were we really hoping to score here? And then you fuse that with the American desire. Clint, you hit it earlier. We feel lesser. We feel inferior. We feel we need to show the world that we can't just win games, but we can win beautifully, which drives me crazy because international football is not that game. You do not get extra style points for being Barcelona 2010. You're not a club team. You're an international team. So I'd say that the collective, the grit, but ultimately we're looking for a cohesive idea of football. And we lost that in the Berhalter era, that cohesive idea of football. It moved to complacency. We don't yet have one under Pochettino, but what were you going to say, Clint?
No, I was gonna say you go to a formation that's kind of easily to understand, right? And that you're going to be compact defensively, and you can get forward. Whether that's a 4-4-2, whether that's a 4-2-3-1, or what have you, right? And you talked about it. What is your identity? Are you getting your width with your outside backs? Is that where you're going to get your crosses from? Are you getting your width with your outside midfielders? Is that who's crossing the ball? Or do you have them tucked in? And just how you are defensively. Are you allowing them to go on the outside? Or you want them to push to the middle and close on them there? So having a true simple way of playing, and then everybody kind of knows where to be, and then it's kind of plug and play. And because you don't have a lot of time to work on tactics when you're with the national team, except when you're in tournaments, right? So I think that makes things a little bit more simple for you. And the way I would describe it, you look at certain managers of a mid-table team, right? They figure out ways like a Roy Hodgson, like a David Moyes.
Mwah.
You know what I'm saying? They figure out ways to win. You're compact defensively, but still, you know how you're going to play in the attack and create chances, and you're going to be dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, I think the two players we missed the most in this tournament were Anthony Robinson and Serginho Dest. I mean, just having two flank threats. I mean, particularly Anthony, just the ability both sides of the ball. I mean, today we seeded the flank. There was just no width whatsoever. We got utterly devastated. Chris Vass in the chat says, shout out to Chef Clint, recommending the proper suit for hot weather. Hashtag ingredients, GOAT US men's national team player, and Gordon Ramsay levels in the kitchen. Are you a good cook, Clint?
Hey, I would try. You know that. I would put a lot of different stuff in it. But hey, I'm one of those people that even in the summer, I'll eat chili, I'll eat soup.
Me too, bro. Me
know?
too, big time. When I get down to
hating.
Nagadoches for that fishing trip, we're gonna eat some of the Dempsey soup together. Carter,
Heck yeah.
come on up, baby. What's your question for Clint? Unmute. Tell us where you're from and fire away.
Hey, Rog. Hey, Clint. I appreciate you guys having me on from Tampa, Florida. And I put a little bonus comment in the chat, which is, Dempsey, I have one of the old Waldo jerseys signed by you, as well as a photo with you that is a cherished possession on the wall in my office. My question is, going into the summer, I think, prior to Pulisic pulling out some of the other announcements by Poch, we all would have probably put a different lineup out on the field. Having gone through the summer and seeing Poch has really kind of narrowed it down to the same lineup he keeps on the field, do we feel better about our depth, or are we more concerned? Because I know we talk about the 8 or 9, depending on who you're counting, guys that aren't here, but even that doesn't make a full squad if we count the 11 Poch relies on plus those 8. Thanks.
Do we feel better at the end of the summer or worse, Clint? What a great question, Carter.
You know what? I'm an optimistic person, so I'm going to say I feel better. I wanted to see fight from this team, and we got that during this tournament. They got to the final, and they were in a position that they could have won it. They went up 1-0, and then the game kind of got away from them. And there's a few players that we talked about that are going to push to get into this starting lineup, which we wanted to see. We wanted to know what Pochettino was going to do by having his new set of eyes on our player pool. Who is he going to identify as people that could possibly break into that roster spot? I am worried about the meaningful games. I hope that we can get quality of friendlies in terms of top teams that have already qualified for the World Cup, and maybe we could play away from home a few more times. But I'm going to say I'm optimistic. What about you, Raj? Where are you at?
I think, I try and frame the question, what has to happen now? I try and be a human of action in this moment. And I think a lot of it depends on two things. The first one, number one, there's got to be some fence mending with Christian Pulisic. We've not talked about it for a while, and thank God we've not talked about it. It meant we've been able to talk about the football and not the off the field. But that cycle of incidents, Pulisic not reporting, US Soccer having to quite unorthodoxly put out a statement making it clear that it was the player's choice. Pulisic then waiting 2 weeks before doing an interview in which he said he offered to come in for the two friendlies, but was told not to bother. And adding that he, quote, didn't agree with that decision, which led to Poch's quite emotional "I am not a mannequin" speech. All of that still lingering. And so, ultimately, if I ran US Soccer, I'd have Pochettino go to Milan quickly. I'd have photos of the two out there optically, saying no bruising. We're on with the football now. That's what's important. This can't become a flapping piece of skin. It cannot become a distraction. That would be incredibly challenging. So there's got to be a lot of optical, almost damage management. And then number two, Clint said it, the fans. Yeah. It is an agony. I want to be clear. Thinking back to 2010, thinking back to 2014, the number of US fans that followed this team, lived with them, died with them, supported them every step of the way. The question of where they have gone, on the field, it's been the Gold Cup series about Poch building a C-string with fight. It's been remarkable to watch. I've really enjoyed and found it fascinating. But off it, the empty stadia to begin with, and then sold out crowds that were 90% Guatemalan and then 90% Mexican. this audience that was so massive in 2014, we all felt so optimistic. It felt like we were surging. It's been lost. I can tell you, the US men's national team only, the fan site, the general sentiment is ultimately the reappointment of Greg Berhalter was the moment when, fans just snapped. You can debate where it happened since 2017, but it must be rebuilt. Has to be. We can't take that support, which is complicated and wonderful. There's so many options for US football fans now. In 2010, they used to, America. That was the obvious first move. Now the Premier League is so massive here. There's so many fans who just support the Premier League teams and feel quite satiated by them. The US is in a very competitive battle for hearts and minds. One we can win. I have no doubt we can win. But my Lord, we've got to try something different in the next 338 days. Let's take another question. You beautiful human being. Let's have Joe. Come on up, unmute. Tell us where you are. What's your question for Clint?
Hey, guys. Joe from Boston. I'm currently in Cape Cod, though, chilling on a beach. But my question for you guys was concerning our striker situation. So, obviously we don't have a star like Clint anymore playing the striker position. I'd love for Balogun to be that guy, but injury problems for him. So I was wondering who you would have as your strikers heading into the World Cup, and do you think that's a problem for us, something we should be worried about, our ability to make a run, depending on that striker situation? Thanks.
Where are you in the Cape, Jake?
Near Katuit.
Oh, God bless in every regard. I'm living vicariously through you. Clint, striker, in a perfect world, full fitness, who are the three that you're taking?
In a perfect world, I'd probably take Balogun, Pepe, and it's a toss-up, right, between Ajiman and Haji Wright. Those would be the four, right, that you'd pick from. But even in 2022, I mean, that's what we were saying. We needed that number 9, and I appreciate you putting me in that striker position, but that was never my true best position. I was more of a withdrawn forward or kind of an inverted winger. I like to get in those spaces and kind of get on the half turn per se than it would be to be the hold up guy and the one that stretches the lines. But those are the four guys that come to mind. But for me, Balogun, and I'll say it again, is during the Copa America how he played. It's what I like to see. He's who I would have liked to have played with. But yeah, we've been definitely hit hard with injuries.
Why would you like to have played with him, Clint? What was it about the style of play that you think, wow, that?
I think it would. I think it would have been similar to me and Oba. I think that it'd be like a pickup style. I think that I could play him through. He'd get in space. He could beat a guy. I'd be running late to get into the box, and he could find me. Then I could get onto something. I think we'd do a lot of give and goes off of each other, and we would cause problems. He's a player that can create his own chances, both with right and left feet. He gets on the end of things. He's good in the air. I feel like we'd have just complemented each other well. It would have reminded me of my time in Seattle.
Oh, my God. I think I would have combined best with Ricardo Pepi.
Yeah, I can see you and him. I can see y'all causing some problems.
You know what? I would have stood there.
Hey, Pepe's from Texas, so I'm always going to show him love. And he's a man. He's a great son to bring on and change the game for sure.
Oh my God, I adore that man. I just love everything. His story, his ferocity, I love the redemption cycle of Ricardo Pepi. I wish him every joy, and I missed him terribly this tournament. Yeah. We'll take a quick detour before we take a chat. Jim James Jr. In the comments says, Clint, which lake has better fishing holes, Rayburn or Toledo? The big questions.
Ooh, both of those are great lakes. Also Lake Fork. I got to show some love to that one. But I spent most of my time on Rayburn, if I'm being honest, growing up. So I'm going to be biased towards that lake. We used to camp out at Powell Park in the summers. That was kind of like our summer vacation, get the tents, go out there and do a little fishing. So I'm gonna have to show love to Lake Sam Rayburn.
I just love how you're so balanced. You're got to show love to Lake Fork. Don't want to hurt Lake Fork's feelings.
The Lake Fork's good. They got some big. They used to back in the day. Used to have some big bass out there. I don't know anymore, but that's the lake as you head closer to Dallas on the way from Nacogdoches there.
Oh, God bless. So remember, listeners, life truth. Always got to show love to Lake Fork. Hashtag Bass Assassin. Let's move on to the mighty Drew. Oh, tell us where you're from. Come and unmute. And what's your question for Clint Dempsey?
Hey, Raj. This is Drew in Austin, Texas.
Yes, sir.
And
oh, gosh, my Lord. And we love your city in every regard, and we can't wait to be back. What's your question, bub?
so, we've talked about it. Most of the players in this squad for this tournament probably not making the World Cup. Let's see, our outside backs seem to be pretty poor throughout the whole tournament. But I want to talk about one who will be there. He didn't seem to show up that much tonight with Malik. Is it because he just had no one to play off of? But he seemed to be losing the ball quite easily. What was your read on that, Clint?
I mean, I think it was a tough game for our attacking players in general. There wasn't much time. There wasn't much space. I don't think we really did a great job of possession as a team. There's only a few times I saw where you had someone from the back driving forward, like Chris Richards, to try to create a mismatch where someone needs to step to them to find other players. I mean, what I'll say about Tillman is he battled the whole time and fought hard for the jersey. He's one of the bright spots during the tournament. Finals are difficult sometimes. You don't get in a good rhythm. Luna didn't get in a rhythm as well. I mean, Ajiman was fighting the whole time as well, got fouled, which led to the free kick that we scored. So it was just a tough night in general for our attacking players. I don't feel like they ever really got in a true rhythm. And us as a team, we just didn't do enough to create those opportunities to unbalance them and get our players with more time and space on the ball to do damage.
I think a very difficult game to really analyse anybody in that forward gear. I mean, by the way, Tillman had the crap kicked out of him all tournament. This was a CONCACAF crucible for him. And when you think about how to knock out the US, teams were just going for him from the off. He will be absolutely bruised and battered, and I think can walk away from this Gold Cup with a real sense of pride. I think he's won over a lot of admirers with this fan base for his output, but also for his style. I mean, he's not a physical player. He's not a grinder, but he took a real beat down, kept getting up and answered the call. I've got a huge amount of respect for him, and I feel so bloody. He's one of the positive, massive.
The thing I like about him is also just those moments of quality that you talk about. Those touches where he's behind the leg, chopping it and getting into space and trying to make stuff happen. He tries stuff. That's what you want to see.
It's all you want.
You know what I'm saying? And it works. And he's only going to get more comfortable, and it's only going to get better. Yeah, tonight wasn't his night, but like you talked about, he fought for that jersey.
He really
You know
did.
what I'm saying?
He really did.
Anybody,
He really did.
That's why I ride for him, man. He tries shit and he fights.
I love you. This, by the way, if Clint and I were managers of the US team, we wouldn't say much. We'd just say, fight and try crap. That's all. That's it.
That's all you need.
Hey,
we're going to have fun. We're going to have fun. We might not last long. But we're going to have some fun.
We're going to be serious about that.
We're going to be serious about having some fun.
We're going to be serious about that fun.
We're going to score some goals.
And then we're going to just annihilate all those bass in Lake Fork, baby. Let's take two more quick calls. Let's have Asher. I think you're from New Jersey. If that's true, tell us where you are in New Jersey. Come on up and fire away at Clint. You got to unmute, Big Ash. Oy. Let's move on. We will get to Rodrigo. Oh, that's a name I recognize. Rodrigo, you can unmute, Bubs. You're from Texas, I think, if I remember rightly. Come on up.
Yeah, I am. And I'd just like to say thank you, Clint, for talking about Dallas Cup. As someone who grew up playing it, I really think it's such an awesome experience.
Sir.
And hearing from someone like you that has done so much to play that is really cool to hear. And actually, I think he might have played under the same coach. I have core memories of him yelling at us saying that we weren't you. So.
Oh, yeah. What team you play for?
Dallas Texans.
Who was your coach?
Hassan.
Yep, that's him. That's the coach. Him and Keith Hodder were my coaches for the Texans.
That's great coaching.
You're not Dempsey. You're not Dempsey.
Tell it,
Hey,
I
got a story for you. One time he subbed me. He goes, Clint, you want to dribble? And he punted the ball into the woods. He goes, dribble over there. I was like, oh, hell. I just went and sat down, bro. I just went and sat down. He's crazy in a good way. But
he had a Dallas Morning News article called "The Satan of Soccer." So,
he always wore those loafers, and he had like a cardigan around his neck or a scarf or something.
The most cologne. Anyway,
by the way, Rodrigo, we could just do a whole show with you and Clint doing memories.
I mean, we could. This guy is ridiculous.
But Coach Pochettino, if you're listening, try that with the players. Just say, you're not Clint Dempsey. Maybe it works. Exactly. I don't know. But tell us what your question is, Mighty Rodrigo.
And I guess my question does come from the coaching itself. And I agree with a lot of the callers about how we don't have the strongest team right now. And with you, Clint, that a national team coach doesn't have the time to have the tactics. But I guess my issue with going into the future, especially with the quote unquote stars coming back, could you give me a player perspective on who, if it's the coach, if it's the leaders on the team, who established this pragmatic view? I think of like the teams that you guys were on, and if you had a lead, again, I hate to use the term, but like you played ugly and just got the result. Beating Spain in the Confederations Cup comes to mind, or even games where you didn't win. It seemed like these players would not only fight, of course, but just have, no problem with having a negative outlook on playing poorly. Maybe like you said, Raj, you don't get, points in international for playing pretty. And I think with the European stars returning, and maybe you can give me some insight on that, Clint, as a player that played in Europe, are they really going to be the ones, or does it have to come from a manager, from Poch, to have this more pragmatic negative mindset, if you will? Because for Poch with Spurs, I mean, I think he was very criticized for not having that mindset at times, and maybe being too free-flowing at times when you just need to hunker down and win the game. And I know that was long-winded, but I guess
it's a great question. Right? I mean, how does this pragmatic mindset change? Does it change when the stars return, Clint?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'm not going to act like we were just the best team in all the world when I played. But what I will say is what hurts this team at the moment is the failures that's kind of to this moment, right? You got Copa America, you have CONCACAF Nations League, and then you have the injuries, and then you have the World Cup. You have all this pressure that's coming into play. But the thing is, when you talk about the other teams before, the failures that I had under the national team, where we lost to Jamaica in the semifinal and we got that early red card, and then to Trinidad away from home, not qualifying for the World Cup in 2018. So it's one of those situations that we were lucky during my time when I was playing. We never really had as many injuries as they kind of had now. I think that compounded with the fact of the failures of Copa America, CONCACAF Nations League, and it's just in the fact that there's not a lot of meaningful games left building into the World Cup. It's just under more of a microscope, and we're grasping at straws, right? You're seeing attendance not be good. You know that it's important to take advantage of this moment. You look back at '94 and just how the country got behind that team and what it did for our country in terms of the MLS being created the year after, 2 years after that. So, and it had kids believing that, dude, I want to represent my country. I want to play in the World Cup, and I could beat teams like Colombia. I could make it almost beat Brazil. They lost 1-0 to them, which was the team that went on to win it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you want to be inspired as a fan. So hopefully, they get back on track and we see some of these players get back to full fitness, and we get some, like we talked about, some friendlies that are meaningful in a way as much as we can make them, by maybe making them away from home or something like that against top quality. But I mean, Raj, how would you?
Oh, I mean, Clint, I can only echo everything that you've said. Look, I think international football, Rodrigo, we talked about this before, is inherently pragmatic. It really is. I've talked about this a lot, about the idea of how you play, which is really in international football based on denying the other team goal opportunities and then working out how to make the most of every single chance you get. I mean, the great Clint Dempsey teams in World Cups, they didn't obliterate opponents. I mean, if you look at 2014, which was delirious for football in this nation, I mean, the whole nation got behind the United States. There were enormous fan fests across America when this team were playing. America fell in love with that team. What did they do? They beat Ghana in the first minute and then the last couple, and then got really, pushed in between. We let a game slip against Portugal. And then we lost to Germany.
1-0.
Yeah. I mean, by the way, we got through. We did it. We fought. The Belgian game, amazing. We could have won.
Yeah. Could have won.
We got obliterated, but had the chance at the death that I don't want to talk about because Wando's such a lovely human being. But ultimately, you do not need to play dazzling football to unite this nation.
I agree with that. But I will say about that tournament, we lost our number 9, Josie Altidore, and I had to play a position that's not my main position. I think that jammed us up a little bit. I think we could have played a little bit better in that World Cup, even though we were able to get out of the group of death. I think we would have been more of a dangerous team by having Josie fit and up top. I think we could have caused more problems there. But credit to the team. Everybody fought, and like you said,
they found a way. They found a way. All we want is fight and try crap. I mean, that's ultimately it. So, Rodrigo, I'd say the same to you. We just want a team that fights and tries crap. And I think I'll give credit. I mean, I'm going to ask Clint before we leave in one moment to give us a sense of optimism ahead of all that is to come. And I do think ultimately we did see. I mean, this team is limited. We knew it was limited, but there was some fight. There was even today when we took our lumps in a crucible. I mean, they got absolutely, kind of whoop-ass at times, and they kept this thing bloody close. We're going to take one last call. There's so many of them, and I want to thank you all because it's been amazing experiencing this Gold Cup with question after question. But I'm going to give the last one to the great Christina Stotts. Come on up. Tell us where you are and what's your question for the great Clint.
Good evening, gentlemen. Can you hear me better this evening?
Yes,
we can, Christina.
Okay,
you're not listening with your phone right by your computer.
No.
I think.
No, we're all good. I sorted out the technical issues. I apologize about that because I know better. But
it's great to wish you a belated happy birthday now. From all of us, we all adore you. You're a very important human being in every GFOP's life. But fire away with the last question for King Clint.
Yes. So, Clint, I want to ask you the same question I asked Rog in an Ask Me Anything question on Discord this week. I asked him if the Gold Cup was going to be a litmus test for Poch. In the chat this evening, I presented that question again, and a lot of these supporters were upset. They wanted Poch out. They knew the experience he had with Tottenham and the Spurs experience. So as a former player, what do you want to see going forward from Poch? You talked about getting matches outside of the country. Do you want to see Poch go in front of the Federation and publicly state that we want international matches in order to, number one, be a better squad, and number two, get a true sense of what this team is?
So Christina, by the way, Poch has said he wants to play, big teams away. He's talked about that.
Yeah.
But what you're really asking of Clint is, does this Gold Cup mean anything? Is it a litmus test for Pochettino, or is this Clint? Should we be reading too much into this, or should we be saying, God, this was the C string? He did okay with them. There's many more battles to come. Does this mean it's a great end question? Does what we've lived together, does what we've broken, does it mean anything?
Yeah, it does. I mean, you're always going to be graded upon what you do in any job that you have. No matter you're playing for your national team or playing for your club team, if you're not getting the job done, it's who's going to come in and take your position, right? What I will say is, look, he got the boys fighting and got them to a final, but still, it just doesn't look like there's a lot of quality at his disposal, if I'm being honest. But then saying that, look at CONCACAF Nations League semifinal, third, fourth place game with a strong lineup and not getting the job done there. So, yeah, I mean, he's going to be the guy, I think, to the World Cup. And like you said, it's kind of been bittersweet in terms of my reaction of how things have gone so far because of the injuries and not having your best players available. But it was definitely a failure from what we saw in CONCACAF Nations League. And like you talked about, you want to see the best friendlies that you possibly can get now because there's not many important games from now into the World Cup. So I think he's brought into a tough situation. And I think he's being asked to build a house with not a lot of tools, especially when you look at this Gold Cup. But if you're going to grade him on anything, for me, the Nations League, you got to win that game versus Panama. And then you had the third, fourth place game versus Canada. You lose that game as well. So things are not in a good spot, and that's why you saw the attendance the way that they are for this Gold Cup. So, but what I will say is, you talk about optimistic, being positive, and that's just kind of how I'm going to be glass half full type of dude. Is they showed a fighting spirit, and as long as they keep that culture and add the talented players back and keep players, the players from injury to come back to the squad, I'm curious to see what they do. And like we talked about, if you don't get out of the group stage, it would be a huge failure on home soil.
Oh my God! Do not. I mean, you said, I think it was the last show, Clint, that ultimately Pochettino is going to be seen as success or failure based on 3 games in the World Cup. Those are really, those are the ones that the next competitive games. In a way, even when he was hired, they were the only ones that matter. Everything between now and then is just noise. Look, I would love, this to be a moment of serious learning. I'd love US soccer to now get serious. I'd love, Pochettino in a way. When you speak to the players, they want him to be more in their lives. The players to get serious. The message again from the beginning of the summer about complacency. It's put all of this aside, drew a line under it. It is. You've said it beautifully. The greatest opportunity of a generation for these players to make this nation soar, to feel alive, to feel proud and connected and unified. Through football. There can be nothing more powerful than that. You've been in some great teams. You've been in some team moments of challenge. I'm going to let you have the last word, Clint. What would your message for hope be for this fan base in the here and now as we charge towards a World Cup, which is 338 days away?
My thing is it's always as a player, the next game, the next goal. It doesn't take much to get you back on track and out of a slump. And I think that is what's truly beautiful about the game of soccer, and the reason why we love it as fans, because your team can be losing 2-0 and 1 goal gets you back in it, and you come back and you win the game, right? And it's one of the greatest memories you'll have in terms of the stories you tell with your kids and your family about those type of moments. So I just think it just takes one thing to kind of get you out of a slump and get you back on that wave again and ride, and that's what we're hoping for. That's why we hold our breaths. That's why there's always tomorrow, and if you ever lose that, then I think you lose in life, because it's one of the joys that keeps me going. So that's just how I'm gonna be, and that's how I'm gonna approach it.
I love it, Clint. My late father, his life motto was always look forward. And in a way, you're embodying that and prodding us towards that reality. I love your optimism. I will say it sustained me a lot this summer. And I'm going to leave it there on that note, because that's all we got time for this evening. Thanks to all the callers. I'm so sorry to those we couldn't get to. We will have you on again. A reminder to everyone watching, come and see Rory Smith this weekend at the Ultra Pitside Club in Midtown Manhattan. We're going to go full on Club World Cup semi-finals live. Watch both of the games live. We're also going to do a Friday night show, with special guests, including someone that may or may not know the Nagadoches fishing scene unbelievably well. Details and the RSVP link are in the description of this YouTube video and the podcast. Clint, I want to say thank you to you. This has been an incredible journey. We started it with that live stream during the Turkey match 1 month ago. We've lived 8 games, ups, downs, 2 lives, and innumerable Clint Dempsey live truths. I just want to say what a privilege it's been to bring the world your show, The Juice. We can't wait to continue the series through the rest of the year, through the World Cup. It is such a seismic year for football in this nation. For me to listen to you, the voice of this game in the United States, is remarkable. You should be on Mount Rushmore of American soccer, apart from when you replaced yourself with DeMarcus Beasley. I just want to say to you, we all take what you have to say with real gratitude. We don't take it for granted. Thank you, mate.
No, thank y'all, and thank you, the fans. Hopefully they feel like we're all hanging out at a bar talking about the game. So
that bar is the only place I want to be. Until next time, let's not take a second of watching football together for granted. Courage, vamos, and go USA. Big love.